Hello everyone and welcome back for another week of this Noirvember challenge. For this day I have something really special because it is yet again another movie that is an absolute classic, not just of film noir but of cinema in general. It is also a very important movie in the same sense that Phantom Lady, which was the first movie that I featured in this film noir movie challenge, and that's because both movies were produced by a woman. In this case, it was produced by the fantastic Virginia Van App. It had been a long time since I wanted to talk both about Virginia Van App and Rita Hayworth. So as you guessed it, and as you know from the title of this video, today we're going to pay tribute to Gilda by Charles Bitter.
I hate you too, Johnny. I hate you so much that I think I'm going to die from it. Darling.
Gilda, inflaming men's hearts with a kiss or a song.
Amor mio, love me forever, and let forever begin tonight.
As I was just saying, much like Laura or Double Indemnity, this movie is an absolute classic on its own, regardless of the genre that it belongs to. An absolute film icon, Gilda owes its epic success to chemistry, as you know, a subject that I really love talking about. Also the mastermind of Virginia Van App, and obviously to all the people involved who made this amazing movie possible. Again, as I was saying in the beginning, this movie is quite similar to Phantom Lady in the sense that they both had a woman in the role of the producer. The grand tandem formed by Virginia Van App and Rita Hayworth, whom, much like Joan Harrison and Ella Raines in Phantom Lady, they formed a fast and lifelong friendship. And is that cooperation, that affinity and that friendship that made especially Rita Hayworth's career rise to astronomical proportions. I feel that she was an actress that she's mostly remembered for her beauty and her looks, but I think that she was so much more than that. She also had a love-hate relationship with this movie because it was her biggest success, but also it was forever an image that she couldn't get past. The parallels drawn between Joan Harrison and Virginia Van App don't just end here, because also Virginia started as a screenwriter. Although she submitted her first screenplay to Paramount, where she remained for about a decade in the 30s, it was at Columbia Studios where she blossomed and she achieved a position that very few women sadly held at that time. Her first real success though was not a film noir but a musical. In this case it was CoverGirl, which is a movie that I featured and I talked about in a video dedicated to Gene Kelly. And as you can all guess, if you haven't watched that video, it's because it's a favorite of mine. For CoverGirl in particular, Virginia was hired because Columbia Studios wanted more stories that would appeal the female public, and so they again hired Virginia Van App, who had a reputation with providing very solid material specifically for that public, to improve and give substance to the story for CoverGirl. And it was then that she met Rita Hayworth and they started again a friendship and a collaboration that would produce some of her best and most emblematic work. Virginia ended up having a lot of say for CoverGirl, so Harry Cohn, the head of Columbia, chose Virginia as the studio's executive producer. CoverGirl was a total success. They had found in her their perfect recipe for success at that time. The next year, 1945, she started working on what it would become Gilda. It had to be a new vehicle for Rita Hayworth, who was proving to be the official start of Columbia. The screenplay was an adaptation from a story that was mainly rewritten by Marion Parsonet and Jo Swerling. I think both men, despite the names, and Virginia herself also worked on the script and enhanced even more the female role. Gilda is therefore a very complex female character. She's not an actual femme fatale, although she has the looks and the feel of one. In many senses, she's both a victim and a perpetrator. She is a sexually liberated woman who fights for her freedom and in turn helps the man she loves. Despite his hot-headedness, his downright cruelty in some instances. They both are cruel with each other, if I'm totally fair. Her main weapons are words and sex, which are two things that prove to be extremely powerful in this movie. Their love-hate relationship in the movie is one of the most remembered in cinema, and their relationship is super twisted, again full of cruelty for both parts, but especially from Ford's part, who is heavily tortured, repressed, and who also has a very dubious relationship with his boss, Balin Munson, played by George McCready. It's all that combination, that triangle that would often be a component of film noir plots and is what fuels this romance that is so unique. Few female characters in movie history had the impact that Gilda had upon its release. Rita Hayworth creates such an intricate, fascinating character who not only acts, she also sings, although she was dubbed in this movie, but she performs, she dances, and she delivers dialogue like bags of dynamite.
Didn't you hear about me, Gabe? If I'd been a ranch, they would have named me the Bar Nothing.
Her super hot chemistry with Glenn Ford was also key to the incredible success of this movie. Their on-screen chemistry also translated into off-screen chemistry, as you can see quite vividly by the way they look at each other. I believe I read that the part of Glenn Ford was originally offered to Humphrey Bogart, but he declined the part because when he read the script, he felt that the movie heavily relied on the female part, so it was instead offered to Glenn Ford. Both him and Gilda had worked previously in a movie, which is now practically forgotten, and it is 1940s drama called The Lady in Question. They would eventually go on to star in movies like The Loves of Carmen and An Affair in Trinidad, but they certainly couldn't surpass the impact that Gilda had. The film started though without a finished script. It was a case much like Casablanca, where the actors were handed daily the pages that they were going to be shooting. How they were able to pull all this off, but boy, we are grateful for it. Other fantastic professionals that made Gilda certainly the success it was and the masterpiece it is yet once again the cinematographer, in this case Polish-born Rudolf Mattei, who would also go on to direct his own movies from 1947, I'd say, onwards. But to be fair, he's mostly remembered for his work as a cinematographer, and he was a fantastic one. And the way he photographed Rita Hayworth here, the musical numbers, which we still have to talk about, the way everything is lit and shot in this movie, I just run out of words trying to describe that. We also have the emblematic gown, that satin black dress created by French costume designer Jean-Louis, paired with some fantastic black gloves with which Rita Hayworth did a strip teasing, and that dress alone and her hair and her makeup and her attitude helped solidify the image that femme fatales have in film noir movies, even though, as I said before, she is not your typical femme fatale. If you compare it, for instance, with the part of Jane Greer in Out of the Past or Barbara Stanwyck's in Double Indemnity. Something again to say about the musical numbers of Amado Mio and Put the Blame on Mame is that they were choreographed by a man named Jack Cole, who would not only choreograph this number but also worked a lot with Marilyn Monroe, and specifically also choreographed the number of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend for Gentlemen Prefer Blonde. And as we're saying in the beginning, we owe much of its success to the experience of its director Charles Vidor, who had also directed CoverGirl and worked with Rita Hayworth and Virginia Van App there, and he was able to turn all those sequences into a very cohesive and very fantastic final result. This is a movie about love, jealousy, hate, the kind of hate that you could die from, and it has a cinematic charm that again few movies have in Hollywood history. Alright, so that was all for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I certainly love talking about Gilda. It is though a movie that it feels that I'm saying over and over again how brilliant and fantastic it is, and I hope that I equally provide things that were not just me rambling about how fantastic this movie is. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me for this film noir movie challenge. Thank you so much for sharing the love for classic movies, and see you again tomorrow for another video. And just remember that if something happens today, you just put the blame on Mame. Bye!